Welcome back here to the July North America Open. I am Solid Jake Kalinsky, joined by my co-commentator Corey Kubihover and our analyst. Moving over to the desk here, it's going to be Sean Jester Delaney. We are now going to the lower semi-finals, and I couldn't be more excited to be back in the action.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. These are the matches that we have been waiting for. We need to find out which of these teams will be advancing to the Americas Championship or down to this match being a very, very critical one. We want to know because they are going to get into that top 3 spot. Since Tempo Storm has already advanced, we're moving to a situation where top 3, they all get to go to the Americas Championship.
All right, so I've also now been told that we have another surprise guest for you. Good friend of Jake's.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, we have a remote interview set up with the one and only Calder. Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really well. How are you?
So, quite well, quite well. Now, I know the time zone's a bit different for North America and Europe, but how many games have you caught, and what do you think about the action thus far?
Well, I was actually just lucky to catch a couple of the games yesterday, especially the triple melee assassin game that was played by Cognitive Gaming. That was quite fun, and you should have seen the European player chat at the same time when they started the draft, because that was pretty cool. And I caught the last few games that we saw from Tempo Storm and C9 Maelstrom just because I was casting like 2 tournaments the last few days as well. But yeah, what I've seen was pretty fun, was really interesting.
Well, let's talk a little bit about North America versus Europe, because the metas are quite different. Now, I was watching DreamHack Valencia only a few days ago, and Team Liquid, who is largely considered to be at the top, they ran Abathur Vikings. That's very out of the meta. What do you think about compositions like that?
Well, it depends a little bit on the maps that you play, but it can, of course, be extremely strong, especially since both of the heroes are usually designed to soak experience. I mean, you see that on Battlefield of Eternity, which we saw just coming to play in the last match as well, where especially the Vikings and also Abathur are quite strong because you have those long and drawn-out objective fights in the middle of the map. So that's why Abathur usually shines, because you can soak 2 lanes while the rest of the team is just trying to defend the own Immortal. But if you look at the big maps, then Abathur and also, of course, the Vikings are usually really strong. And especially on Team Liquid, we have a couple of players that are especially strong with those 2 heroes. Vortex plays an amazing Viking, and it's basically the old StarCraft 2 players that are really good with the Vikings these days.
If BlizzCon was in 2 weeks, and we had North America, Europe, and Asia all facing off, in your opinion, who would take it?
It's really difficult to tell when it comes to the Chinese and the Korean teams. I think the Koreans are not really quite on the level that they will be at some point, because they have a very small scene. And as far as I know, like the big esports organizations over there have not really entered the Heroes of the Storm competition just yet. So we don't see Casper, for example, investing into it.
Right.
Once that happens, the Korean teams are going to get very strong. The Chinese, on the other hand, seem to be having a very solid community and with good and strong teams. But we didn't really have a comparison there. EU versus NA is probably what interests the most people, and me as well. I personally think that if you look at the entire server and the scene itself, that Europe is currently a lot stronger than NA, just because we have more depth in the way that our teams run. We have a very high competition there. When it comes to the top teams, on the other hand, then it becomes very interesting, since we're having on NA, C9 Maelstrom and also Tempo Storm, and both of them are just absolutely amazing, especially, of course, Tempo Storm. I mean, they didn't drop a single map in the competition here just yet. We have Team Liquid on the European server and a few other teams, like, in this case, Virtus Pro, Na'Vi, and, for example, Gamers 2, and all of those are also quite strong and have been dominant for months. So I think that the battle between Team Liquid and Tempo Storm is what people look forward to the most. And I could see that go either way. Personally, I think that Team Liquid is going to take that, but it's definitely going to be a very interesting battle. And the only regret that I have is that we don't see a battle between, let's say, the top 8 in Europe and the top 8 in NA.
All right, well, I guess the final question is, do you think that any team can upset Tempo Storm today, because they are very much the favorites?
No.
No hope.
I think they're going to take it, and I feel like they're not even going to drop a single map. I mean, so far they have played a flawless tournament, even now on Battlefield of Eternity. They turned it around. They knew exactly when to win the fight and then how to carry the advantage. They know when to finish a game, which is actually pretty amazing to have such a skill that you know exactly when you can go for the core. And in this case, I don't think that anybody can really take them out this time.
All right, Calder, thanks so much for your time. We will see you on the other side, hopefully, very soon.
Thanks for the interview. Bye-bye.
confident.
Storm, yeah, he believes.
He does believe in the Temple. Very PC answers there when you were, sort of ribbing him about the differences between the regions. Saying that both of the top teams on either side are quite strong, and I think that we've been watching a lot of the other regions too. I think we can agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, just last week I was doing a European tournament myself, and I got to see firsthand not only the drafts but the styles, the plays of Team Liquid, and it is really a big toss-up. Titan Storm, Maelstrom, Liquid, the top of the Europe versus the top of the NA. It really will be extremely interesting when we get to finally a global LAN later on this year at BlizzCon. Cannot wait, but we are getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. But you said, PC answers, kind of agree, but at the same time, the strengths are real on both sides.
Well, we'll find out more about the global competition very soon, but we actually have our next match just about ready to roll. It's going to be compLexity Gaming versus Cognitive, and like Kubi mentioned earlier, this is more or less for qualification into regionals.
Yes, this is going to be a very, very big match, and I think both these teams are very, very close in skill level, so it's going to be a very exciting one. A lot of aggression, I think, will be seen for either side, so those melee assassins will be quite contested. Guys, hop onto social media, use the hashtag HeroesWC, and also follow us at Blizz Heroes. Want to get you guys in on that conversation because there's been a lot of really crazy things happening. Glad to see that there's a lot of people voting as well for your favorite teams.
And we can't forget that the Heroes of the Storm North America Road to BlizzCon is all brought to you by NVIDIA and Gigabyte, making all this possible and really helping us grow the Heroes competitive scene.
All right, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, let's say we get right to it because compLexity going head-to-head here with Cognitive. This is, as we get Sam, this is the relegation. This is how you get into those that next set of tournaments. This is where you secure your seed. A lot of pressure to be riding on these teams.
What is going on? All of a sudden, we're seeing shifts in the meta that are happening
in this tournament.
Inside
within the last 24 hours, yeah.
Well, it's just all of a sudden that we had Zeratul banned almost every single game yesterday. Today, we see the Butcher. Sure, that's fine. That's a targeted ban pretty much at Glaurung. They don't want to see the Butcher. But it's the Zagar and it's Cursed Hollow. It's not even, the battleground in this case. I think, it's a strong map for Zagar, sure. But is it warranted that they want to deal with Zeratul? I think we're starting to see teams that, they're not so afraid of this.
Cognitive really did show a lot of melee strategy. So the Butcher as a ban. And, well, look at this. Zeratul's not even on that shot block, and he is ignored by compLexity.
We have to talk about Zeratul as a hero in general. He almost never makes it out of the ban phase, the first ban phase, like you said. And Glaurung very much well known, not only for his Butcher or his Kerrigan, but the Zeratul as well.
I think besides Stitches, which sounds a little bit strange, I mean, we're talking back in the day, the thing that made Glaurung famous as a player was his Zeratul play. He was a terrifying Zeratul. I'm sure this will be no exception, so I'm very excited to see how Cognitive is going to build around this hero. Will we see the Abathur? What other kinds of lockdown is there going to be? And what is compLexity going to do in response to deal with Zeratul?
Well, if you are going to have to deal with like this heavy engage, this heavy poke, especially with the Zeratul kind of roaming around, doesn't have that mini-map icon, so as he goes, lane to lane, you got to be constantly calling it out. You're either going to need good vision or you're going to need good disengage and lockdown.
You certainly will, but vision, you mentioned it, there's Tassadar being collected. His Protoss brother provides a lot of vision and just sustainability to help deal with that Zeratul. And they're opting for Malfurion. They don't want the burst healing as much. Malf has the highest AoE healing in the game, and they'll be utilizing that in this scenario.
So my big question now is which ban will compLexity go with? There can't be an Abathur for Cognitive, but you can't give him an Uther either. Divine Shield Zeratul has become something of a fearsome thing here in North America.
I think trying to maybe limit the support in this case. You're right, though. The Abathur is also quite scary, so it seems like there might not be a correct answer, but just sort of how compLexity is feeling, what they're okay with fighting against.
So it is going to be the Abathur, which means we're very likely to see an Uther coming in from Cognitive. The Arthas ban, though, this is the second time we've seen an Arthas ban, and if you think about it, what does he excel at? Zone control. Once somebody blinks in, like a Zeratul, once somebody jumps in, like a Muradin, right, you are going to be caught in that Tempest, and that Tempest will slow you down, damage you over time, stacking slow as well up to 30%. They did not want to deal with that, so that is why you see an Arthas ban there.
And the root combos that exist with Mouth, the Howling Blast, the Entangling Roots, Jane the Slow. It is rough, but they're going to end up going with Johanna and Tyrande. Now, Tyrande is going to really amplify that burst damage of Zeratul, the 25% extra damage received because of Hunter's Mark. Those targets will just be disintegrated if that is the case.
Thus far, though, it's going to be difficult for them to set up stun combos, because of the way that Johanna's condemn works and it kind of pulls. I'm sure I'm not doubting Cognitive being able to land that, but it's not quite as guaranteed as, say, like Muradin leaping in and then slowing and stunning, and then Tyrande following up on that. So we'll have to see how they're going to work with it. Maybe the last pick on Cognitive's side will play into that.
I'm a little surprised that the last pick here was a Falstead, not a Vala. We have actually seen a lot of Vala with the Hungering Arrow builds, able to duel very nicely for Zeratul that blink too far forward, with the team trying to straggle, trying to get up to that level of the Zeratul. But Falstead, good duelist by himself. The Muradin will complete the comp there from compLexity as well. Remember, Cursed Hollow. Falstead's going to get a lot of value out of that fly.
And they're actually opting for RawrJar over Uther. Now, RawrJar does have the Ancestral Heal, has a lot more safety with the wolf forming. You just get out of a lot of more dangerous situations, and we can never forget the power of the chain heal.
Yeah.
So much AoE healing. Yeah,
there's a lot more burst healing for RawrJar. I think Uther in this case would have been fine too, especially to finish out that sort of the missing link in the stun. So the Condemn plus the Hammer of Justice would have been a great way to set up for Tyrande. But they're going to put a little bit more skill into those style of lockdown and make sure that they have that burst healing.
So, a big reason that I said Uther is because he has trouble dealing with distributed damage. But in this case, he would have had a Tyrande to go with him. So now with RawrJar and Tyrande, that is a heck of a lot of heals. So best of luck to compLexity.
All right, well, on the blue side of the map, that is in fact compLexity with Falstead played by Trummel. Cattle will be playing as Muradin, Blinks on Malfurion, Hans playing Tassadar, and RawrJar rounding up the team as Jaina.
On the right side of the map for the red team, it is going to be Cognitive. We will have Glaurung playing Zeratul like we were talking about before. Hospital will be on Kale Thas. Scylol will be playing Johanna as the warrior player for the team. Shot is going to be on Tyrande, and iakona will be on RawrJar.
All right, guys, this is in fact for the North America Regionals qualification.
Yes.
You will guarantee yourself at least third place if you do win here, and that is in a lot of ways the most important match of this tournament now.
Yep, pricing doesn't change for either of these teams. Whichever drops out, they will both get 1,500 if they don't advance any further, but it's so much more important that these teams will advance to the Americas Championship. And yeah, Jake, you're pointing out they are heavily favoring Cognitive in this vote, so the community has spoken.
But you can continue to speak about it. Use the hashtag HeroesWC or in compLexity or Cognitive to see who you would rather see advance here or who you think will advance here.
Jake, we're seeing it again. The Colossal Totem is making an appearance. Does this mean that we are going to see the root?
Earthgrasp is pretty likely. It's actually technically not a root anymore.
Yes,
basically
you're right.
It's 90% slow.
If you want to get technical about it, Jake, sure.
All right. Well, looking at the talent system, we do see Colossal. Beyond that, everything looks pretty standard. Felon Fusion for Kale Thas, have a little bit of additional sustain for himself, and it's going to be the updraft of Falstad for additional safety.
Yep. Getting that extra mobility. Actually, there's no scouting drone.
And
considering that there's a Zeratul, yeah, sure, you're not going to always have vision of him, especially like mini-map wise, but I think, there's definitely a good argument for there being any kind of a roam squad. So maybe the scouting drone would have been a good call, but it's just Blinks opting for a little bit more wave clear.
Yeah, the additional damage output of that Moonfire is, well, it already shows off here. You can see how much more bonus damage he receives out of that. At this point in time, though, we do see Johanna and Zeratul rotating to the bottom lane. They're going to try to pick someone off. It is going to be a 3v4 in their favor. And, Jaina going to be taking a lot of damage. Will end up going down.
And bouncing exactly straight up and then straight back down. I don't think I've ever seen that particular trajectory, so that was pretty neat. So, a lot of this focus is going to be on the Zeratul and how he's roaming between the lanes, putting a lot of early game pressure on compLexity. I think with this new build that Zeratul's have been going, this auto tech, the focused attack plus the follow through, it does give Zeratul more of a power spike early in the game compared to what we would see later in the game with the previous build, which would be, the gathering power plus the double singularity spike.
All right, well, the first tribute of the game is spawning rather early in this game. It can spawn anywhere between 2 minutes and 15 to 2 minutes and 50 seconds. And it is up in the bottom center of the map. We'll have a stronger presence here on the side of Cognitive.
Yeah, both of the spellcasters on either side, Falstad and Kale Thas, opting to go for that gathering power. So take note when those heroes are taken out, it is going to have a little bit more of an impact. And speaking of being taken out, Blinks finds himself in a bit of a precarious situation, does get away, but not before relinquishing the tribute to Cognitive.
Yeah, and although they committed a little bit more heavily to that by sacrificing any soak in the middle lane, they got it rather quickly. Very nice play here on the side of Cog.
Okay, what else do we have for talents? Jaina has opted to go for the increased Blizzard Radius. That's a very nice ability to have. You know, ever since the Venom changes, that's been something that's kind of contested. Elune's Grace for Malfurion, the extra range. We actually saw Dunk Train make some really nice plays with the extra reach, you know, just being able to lead the targets a bit more with the roots. So I'm sure Blinks will, you know, be using it to that extent as well.
Yeah, it's such a powerful talent. I mean, have one talent that empowers all of your basic abilities. It's hard to, you know, fight against that. So very powerful. All right, level 7, not too far away. Cognitive Complexity making their way towards that. This rotation once more. RawrJar is very low, and Glaurung is going in for the kill. Singularity Spike gonna connect, but not enough because of the nice heal on Blinks.
Very close. Okay, we actually seem to have a little bit of a disconnect. Cattlepillar is seeming to have a little bit of connectivity issues.
Yeah.
No worries there. We'll hopefully get him back in the game. We'll get that action going quite soon.
So I need to ask you, Cattlepillar. It's a great name. If you could draw a Cattlepillar, what would it look like?
I feel like you're drawing a Cattlepillar. For some reason, I have in my head the I forget the name of them. They're from the Mario series, where it's
those
like
yellow
the
things.
Yes. You know what I'm talking about. What are those called?
I don't know.
You're gonna put me on the spot, and then you're not gonna know the name of that.
You've made a completely different reference. I asked you for a drawing.
Yeah, but that's what I would draw. That's what I'm saying. That's how you could what? Oh my goodness. All right, it looks so the game is back up.
Well, we do see the Glaurung once again chasing away Tassadar in this scenario, and it's going to be Cognitive going up 2-0 very quickly in terms of that tribute count. We do have Cattle back in the game, and the action is not stopping. What do we have for the level 7 talents?
Okay, we do have the extended regrowth for Malfurion. I think the most impactful one that's at least a little bit off the meta is the Jaina pickup. That is the Frost Armor, I believe, is the name of the talent. And basically, after Jaina has taken damage, she will do a significant block. It's like her own talented version of block, and this is very much targeted at Zeratul. Because you rely so much on that improved auto attack damage, this is the best way for Jaina to mitigate it. Because look at the heroes in the team. Falstad's got the mobility. Muradin, obviously, you know, he's the warrior, not the greatest of targets to pick. Malf the healer, and then Tassadar, he's just impossible to lock down. So Jaina is the obvious choice for Zeratul to go for, grabbing that extra damage mitigation. I think it's a good, smart choice.
The other big thing just to point out is since Malfurion did in fact go for Enduring Growth, like you said, that means there's no cleanse on the side of Complexity, where Cognitive does have cleanse on Rhaegar.
Okay, and we have that race to level 10. I think the tribute count is okay for Cognitive, considering that they do have that aggressive composition. So I'd either like to see them have that tribute lead or a significant level lead. Since they have one or the other, I'm okay with that. I think they're doing a pretty strong job thus far, but Complexity not out of it at all. You know, I also should mention that Kel'Thas is quite strong in the late game. So Cognitive with the balanced roster, but they do need to have some kind of very dominating presence in the early game.
And Falstad really kind of debating between soaking. He's actually making his way to the middle lane, going to soak that. And of course, he can fly into battle if he deems that necessary. The ping's coming out. Not sure if he's going to be flying in just yet, though.
Okay, quite the extended battle over this tribute. They realize Complexity, that Cognitive, this is an important one. If they can grab this and they get the curse, it's going to provide so much push power. Glaurung really putting the heat on Blinks, is able to back out.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage done. Blinks very low in the backline, but the tribute will be picked up. That is the first curse of the game going in the way of Cognitive, and they get a takedown on Jaina. The Dwarf Toss going in to try to lock down Blinks. Actually, no, that was Muradin. He was friendly to Complexity.
I'm surprised that Glaurung actually didn't end up blinking forward. I thought once they had those two heroes taken down, he would get the aggressive stance. Was a little bit afraid. Are you serious right now?
I don't know if they can stop this.
They got it!
That was huge. A nice place here. Glaurung using that Void Prison to stop Falstad from flying away, dealing 3 takedowns with this curse, allowing them to push all 3 lanes out.
Yeah, again, keep in mind, we have the Gathering Power stacks for Zeratul and Falstad, so it's a big power drop.
That's true.
You know, you can get up to 15%, and when you're taken down, if you have max stacks, it drops down to 5% bonus damage for your abilities. For Falstad, that's a big deal. We're talking about Hinterland's Blast and Overdrive. That's a big part of his kit. That's his impact on the team fights, and if you're looking at a 10% drop in ability power, I mean, it's a great thing to take away. So, you know, it is going to be a targeted pick at times. I think Jaina, you know, is always going to be easier to lock down, but Falstad is going to be more valuable.
Couldn't agree with that, or disagree with that. We do see iakona in the top lane, just making sure he gets the experience soaked. He's not going to be able to push that fort down, but this bottom lane is quite large. And Glaurung, he's just slowly creeping in. Lunar Flare goes in. Hunter's Mark was a little bit delayed there. Singularity Spike, I don't know if it's going to be there in time. Man, the last auto attack of Tyrande.
But the mana, Glaurung doesn't have the ability to escape at this point. I think that RawrJar should be able to fairly save a really nice Lunar Flare, almost being able to connect. The heal is good on Glaurung, and that will be able to get him out. That was a lot closer than it looked.
Very solid plays. The aggressive rotations out of Cognitive have been paying off thus far. It's 5-0 in terms of takedowns, and they have a full level lead at this point in time.
Let's talk about the heroics for either side on complexity. We do have the Tranquility. Jaina, we just saw the Water Elemental used in an attempt to pick off Glaurung, the Avatar, the Archon, and the Hinterland's Blast.
All right, that's a lot of power, a lot of damage. Falset's going to be looking to get those Gathering Power stacks back up, but thus far, no luck.
Okay, might have a fight brewing. Real quick, though, we do have Phoenix, Ancestral Healing, Starfall, Blessed Hammer, and, of course, the Void Prison. We see that also often on Zeratul, and a lot of plays can be made with that. So, Curse had been had. We see some structures been taken out. Actually, all of the forts except for one on the side of Complexity, so a good amount of structural damage taken out.
Yeah, the power of Sentinel being shown off right there, too. Scouting out the boss. They're just saying, look, if they're at the boss, we're going to take our own. But when they realize it's not happening, they're actually rotating down there. Now, they did just get eyes on from the minions that there are several members of Complexity 4, in fact, in the top lane, and they're pretty safe to do this.
Yep, and they just threw down the Sentinel just before, and they're all of a sudden they don't have vision of what's going on. For the rest of the team, they're afraid. And we actually see this a lot more. Teams will sort of use the resource of starting the boss, and then if they lose sight of the enemy team for more than 5 seconds, they say, okay, we back up. But there's teams used to overcommit to the goals, but we're seeing that as the meta develops, the teams are getting better. They use it's okay to back up in those scenarios.
Yeah, the term throw pit was invented for a reason because so many games were lost attempting to take a boss when they were not safe to do that. So that's why we're going to see Cognitive rotating back to collect this Bruiser camp. That Bruiser went flying into the air and his armor just fell on the ground. Some really cool animations today.
A lot of defensive talents picked up at 13 for Complexity. We have the double Ice Block, Malfurion, and Jaina, the Spell Shield on Murd, and actually that one is very particularly interesting. The Prescience and the we actually I don't know if that's the increased damage on the Lightning Rod or if it's the shielded version of it, but
from the icon, yeah, we can't tell. Okay, well, we do see the boss is being collected, and with Glaurung in here, looking around, he does set up the VP. This is stalling out the boss, it's stalling out 2 members, allowing for the rest of the team to get here, but Tyrande is pretty far back.
Do they have enough time for this? It looks as though the shift has made it to the heroes rather than onto the boss, so less pressure.
All right, Glaurung is very low. Falstad chipping away, but the heals are here. Iakona arrived with that Ancestral, but Scylol wishes he had it. The chain heal keeping him alive for the moment, but no, it's not going to be enough. Glaurung blinking out, but he does end up falling.
What?
It's 4-2 down in favor of Cognitive, and Falstad has to retreat. The Lunar Flare somehow, someway does connect, but they successfully steal the boss.
Yeah, they would have needed to have Glaurung still alive to follow up on that chase. A very nice Lunar Flare, though. Just goes to show you they do have the precision for that. That was a ridiculous team fight over that boss, so I couldn't tell at any moment who was going to be able to take that, but that's 2 bosses now for Cognitive. They'll gladly trade out the 2 heroes, capturing those bosses, putting the pressures on. They have all the forts down. Things are looking really up for Cognitive.
There was a really fine line into how risky that was too. You're talking about Zeratul spending his heroic to stall it out, and then Johanna standing on the point, getting incredibly low, using every ounce of sustainability that she has to stay in there on the point, but they clutched it out.
Okay, so a bit of defense being played for Complexity, dealing with those bosses. Level 16 just hit for Cognitive. We do have the Flamethrower Ignite combo that is so strong in Kel'Thas. We did get that Stormgrass Totem for Rhaegar. That means just a little bit of extra control in the fight. The interesting one that's jumping out at me actually is Glaurung's pickup, and that is the increased damage over time for Cleave. Usually you'll see the double bombs just to proc extra hits of the follow-through, but I think it's just a preferential thing in this case to get the DOT.
Yeah, certainly seems that way. I like these talent pickups a lot. They are going to start working on this giant camp, but we do have Complexity right around the corner. Problem being is they don't have level 16 talent of their own, so it's going to be very hard to contest anything right now.
Yeah, smart play. Not having the talent here, and it was almost at the point where it was 2 levels down as well. And sometimes that's a little bit of an overlooked issue. We put a lot of focus onto the talent here as being important, but even 2 levels, it makes a huge difference in fights.
Yeah, you have the additional stats, and stats go a long way. In just about every scenario. All right, well, the Tribute is about to spawn here. This will put Cognitive at 2, as there is no way for Complexity to contest this, but more importantly, they're about to hit 16, which will put them on a much better footing for the team fights.
All right, so we need to make sure that Falstaff can stay alive. But you have to look at what is the setup for the Hinterlands Blast at this point. So maybe we need to see like a really good route from Malfurion. And I think that's really the only issue that complexity is having in terms of these team fights. I mean, they've been in some really weird situations, especially over that boss fight. So we haven't seen a real clean engage on either side. But I'm going to be curious as to how complexity is planning on battling back.
And guys, don't forget, you can vote. Just use the hashtag Here'sWC and the team you would like to see advance here. But Cattle going to capture this watchtower. The Glaurung just scouting around, the Sentinel doing a nice job scouting as well. But it looks like Falstad is being hunted.
Yeah, we do see the Singularity Spike being thrown out, the blink forward. A little bit risky, but he does have that wormhole. And he's able to dash over the wall to safety, just putting a bit of pressure on. It's got more to do with, hey, I'm nearby constantly, so don't overstep your bounds, even if it means you're right next to your keep.
All right, they're trading out Vision Oracle on Hans, going to reveal the members of Cognitive, and Sentinel did in fact connect on to Blinks, revealing where they were. A big posturing has to happen right now because Complexity, they don't want to give up another tribute.
Yeah, Complexity once again finds themselves with their backs up against the wall objective-wise. If Cognitive is able to take this, I can pretty much guarantee you they will be able to put a lot of pressure onto one, if not two keeps, which, you know, that sets them up very well to end the game. So this is a very, very critical point, something where we could see a great comeback from Complexity or Cognitive doing a lot of work to seal the deal.
Yeah, Johanna actually still soaking the middle lane, a little bit less worried about committing at the moment because they're fine to stall. They have the 2-level lead, and they don't need to make anything happen right away. Oracle once again revealing where Glaurung is, so he won't be able to flank. Janet even applying a bit of pressure, but they go over the wall trying to take out Tassadar.
They predicted the wormhole back, and so they were able to throw down the water emerald, putting a lot of pressure onto Glaurung. The VP is nice, but not something that you really want to use in a defensive posture.
Right, and that's going to be on cooldown for the time being, but the Phoenix and Starfall doing a nice job keeping that team low. Jaina will end up falling. Beautiful plays by Scylol, really just getting in the face of Complexity.
Yeah, forced out the Tranquility means much less healing at this point. Scylol,
no.
Glaurung looking to put an additional set of pressure. Trummel is going to have to back out. We see the overdrive has popped. Are they looking to land the Hinterlands? He's almost out of time. Takes a lot of damage from the Flame Strike. They're going to have to do a full backup. The curse is here. Things are not looking good for Complexity.
Oh my gosh, the Sentinel coming out from Tirana. A nice flank. Lunaflare could come out onto Hans. Do they have it on cooldown? Glaurung still chasing regardless, and they will have that dimensional warp.
Very
pretty
close.
much out of mana
Yeah,
here.
the mana was actually an issue that I wasn't sure that he... Wow, look at the amount of healing he gets from that.
But does it matter?
Oh, he's getting the shield at the last second. I think he will be able to get out a nice route thrown down from Blinks, and suddenly iakona finding himself on the wrong side of the wall. But keep in mind the curse is really allowing this team to extend very heavily into the base of Complexity.
30 more seconds in which these structures will not be firing back at Cognitive, and that's why they're dancing around chasing down the heroes. Glaurung, this is when he's at his scariest. He has no reason to be afraid of you, even in your own house.
Yeah, I think they really have to back up at this point. I'm noticing all three of the heroes we just saw very low in mana.
Yeah,
they got a lot of work done. This keep will go down in just a little bit. No mules were picked up on either side, so that amount of work they've done on the keeps isn't going anywhere.
Nah, but they didn't manage to get the bottom one, which is rather unfortunate. I mean, you want to get the catapults, but the top keep did go down. Glaurung just going in there with a big wave of minions and really just powering through it.
Having that catapult pressure sooner than later, of course, is going to be very, very good, but it's not worth taking any risk. Putting your team in a situation where it's like, well, we would have been able to win that if we had mana. Not going to be the case. So they're going to back up. They'll take the safe route. The teams will be trading out golems at this point.
Well, one thing that Cognitive now has for them is going to be those level 20 Storm Talents. We do see a rewind, but the more interesting one is going to be the Nexus Blade on Zeratul.
Yeah, that's a preferential, I think, for Zeratul players. Oftentimes we do see the rewind, and I think he's just looking to try to pick someone off in base. If he doesn't find anyone, he will just put a bit of pressure onto the keep, maybe?
Yeah,
I don't know. He's looking.
I think they see him. They know he's there. They're pinging. And he realizes that he's being chased down Moonfire, revealing his position. But guess what? His team is around the corner as they just collected the siege camp here in the top lane.
Okay. What is going to be the plan? I think that they want to try to, give a lot of support to this push, put some pressure on the core, force mistakes out of Complexity. They're more than capable of defending this, even with the Storm Talent here. But, if any of those heroes go down, Trummel all of a sudden taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, and his dash forward was a little bit of a weird trajectory. Didn't make it over the keep, went to the side. Still going to have that on cooldown. We do see Glaurung blinking and out, utilizing that wormhole, trying to keep the pressure on, and it's a big Lunar Flare locking down Malfurion. This could end up being game without the support here to keep the team alive.
I think this is tricky, but where's the Hinterland's Blast? We haven't seen it all game. I feel like he's just waiting a little bit too long to throw it out. You need that damage output earlier on in the fights, and we see situations now where all of a sudden you just don't have anything to back them up, and that will be game number 1 going to Cognitive. We talked about this being such an important game. All of a sudden, Cognitive Gaming finding themselves 1 match away from qualifying for the Americas Championship.
You know, that looks like a scenario where there is no way Cognitive could pick them off, but with one really clean Void Prison and the connection of that Lunar Flare and Malfurion, suddenly that was game over.
It was a bit sudden at the end there, but I mean, how many bosses went over to Cognitive that match? I mean, they not only got that first curse, they had the Merc control, some really impressive team fighting tactics. So we're going to take a quick look here at a little bit of an earlier fight. In fact, we're going to go all the way back to the deciding tribute, because this was a really cool kind of play. So what are we seeing here? Well, it's going to be some big aggression coming in from Cognitive this way. Who's actually low hit points right there? It's this guy, RawrJar. He is going to be a big target. Not only is he low, Blinks is low. You also see Catto, the tank, just not looking so hot. And really, it's just kind of Hans and Trummel at this point that are kind of the healthier ones. But, you know, with that curse, it's a great time to teamfight, because look at that, level 9 to level 9 just up there at the top. And it's going to be so very close to those heroics. As soon as RawrJar drops, level 10s come out, and that is where we see some big aggression, and we're going to advance that forward here. So, big thought on RawrJar. Big stun, that's going to be the collapse. 1 down, they get the second one there as well. Mirrodin is going to drop, that's the level 10s, and now with that curse, it's going to be kind of split, go grab that siege damage, but look at this, Trummel, he's down there. He wasn't really expecting this. Oh, but he's full steady. He has over the wall. Denied right there. The Void Prison play was so spectacular. Not only was it 3 takedowns, it was multiple force that led us into double bosses and a level lead that did not let up.
Yeah, once they got that momentum rolling, well, the ball just didn't stop.
Okay, so we're finding ourselves now at that 1-0 advantage for Cognitive Gaming. We're going to get game number 2 set up so we can bring you more Heroes of the Storm action. But if you guys want to play Heroes of the Storm yourself, head on over to heroesofthestorm.com. You guys can sign up and play for free. It's a lot of fun. Trust us.
All right, well, this is match point for Cognitive to advance to the North America Regionals. The lines, the stakes are very high. Stay with us. We're going to get game number 2 ready to roll.
If I'm not playing Heroes of the Storm, I'm either spending time with my family or trying to stay in shape so I can perform better inside the game.
I like collecting Funko Pop action figures, I like hiking, and I also really like going jogging.
I'm taking a class right now at a community college in the morning.
Right now my life is pretty much getting better Heroes of the Storm, getting better at the game, and trying to make a name for myself and my teammates.
I love all the Blizzard games, so I play StarCraft, WoW, Hearthstone.
Before moving to the house, I used to work a day job at Google. My family at first wasn't too supportive. They're not quite sure, like, oh, you have a nice job, you can just work your 9 to 5. They weren't even like really aware that this was, so they were just really confused when I started talking to them about this at first. They're like, video games? Getting paid? What? No way.
I currently work in San Francisco as a research data analyst.
I love the outdoors, I love to kayak. What do I do outside of Heroes of the Storm? That's a damn good question.
I'm searching for an apprentice. Someone to train in the art of righteous warfare. Someone to carry my shield, my name, and my crusade after I fall in battle. Not everyone is suited for this life. The crusade is a heavy burden, but someone has to carry it. My name is Johanna. I am searching for an apprentice. Interested?
The grand return of Annoyatron, and Bob, I wish it would end right now.
So this guy doesn't have a sword or anything? He's just, like, annoying?
Like looking in a mirror, isn't it, Bob?
Oh, this doesn't look good.
Like you in a mirror?
That's Hearthstone.
Play it free.
Rated T. So, is he gonna turn that sheep into a devil sword?
That or a squirrel, it's a 50-50 chance. Oh.
Oh, is he okay?
An ogre stepped on him and he's a squirrel, so no.
Hearthstone, play it free. Rated T.
Our strengths as a team, I would say, is being able to understand what our game plan is going into a game and not straying too much from that plan.
Shot, his strength is his flexibility. He plays literally every single hero in the game.
Scylol's strength is in his decision making.
If we just prepare and do our game, like, we'll beat anyone.
Hospital is his consistency. He brings this level of consistency in every game.
Iakona's strength is in his positioning.
We can take a loss in like a series and still come back from it. Play patient, wait it out, and we can just make a huge comeback late game, win a series, win the whole tournament.
All right, guys, welcome back here to the July North America Open for Heroes of the Storm. Once again, I'm Solid Jake, joined by Kubi and Jester, and we saw a crazy game one where Cog is up 1-0.
Okay, yeah, so we saw a lot of good boss deals in that last game. The Zeratul was actually able to be finally picked up. We're seeing a little bit more of that, some shifts maybe in the meta as we move forward. But moving forward, Jester, please take us through the bracket. Give us a little bit of a snapshot of what's been happening.
All right, so why is this such an important match? Well, we will tell you right here and now. Complexity and Cognitive. This is the match series we're into. We're going into game number 2 with Cognitive in the advantage. Whoever advances will be up against Cloud9 Maelstrom. And why is that so important? Normally it wouldn't be, but because the June finalists, Tempo Storm, has already made it into top 3, it means that they cannot be 2 teams at once into the Americas Regional. So whoever fills out this bracket right here is automatically put into the regionals as the 2nd and 3rd seeds, because 2 teams today have to advance and it can't be Tempo Storm. So winner of that moves into Maelstrom. Of course, winner of that will go up against Tempo Storm, and Tempo Storm sitting real pretty there in that high upper bracket seat, guys.
And it's really cool seeing all this unfolding already, because regionals won't be happening till September, but 5 teams from North America. Then we have Australia and New Zealand as one representative, Latin America, and then Southeast Asia. Happy to have Cloud9 and Tempo Storm representing us, and I can't wait to see who's going to be joining them here today.
That's right, guys. Get on Twitter. Follow us at Blizz Heroes. More importantly, we need to get you guys voting for your favorite teams. Use the hashtag HeroesWC followed by the hashtag of your favorite team. We saw that Cognitive was getting the overwhelming amount of votes in that last game, so we're the Complexity fans. We need you guys to come out in droves and support your team.
Well, we also have to thank the sponsors that do support us. We have NVIDIA and Gigabyte really allowing us to put on this awesome competition, so thanks so much for that and your continued support.
All right, guys, so game number 2, the very important game. Could Cognitive take this 2-0? A lot of the fans definitely think so, yeah. But we're going to jump into the Heroes Draft, and we have a map of maps today, because the battleground is going to be Sky Temple, and we've seen this repeatedly this weekend.
Yeah, whoa, Uther ban opening up with that. Now, Zeratul, we've seen a lot of bans on him throughout this event, but the times are turning already, but not today. There he goes.
There is, but more importantly, it is that Uther ban. Having that first hero out puts a lot of pressure on Complexity. They need to pick a support, a big support in their first 2 picks. Unless, they're feeling comfortable with the Lily, we'll have to see.
We've seen this trap actually close a few times. We've been seeing more Lily this weekend than I think I've seen the last year or so, minus the time that she actually had a little bit of an advantage going into solo queue. But now with Zeratul out, of course, usually this is where I would say, hey, it's Jaina, but it's not. It's right now it's Tyrande. So Cognitive, they're setting up a trap with Uther, and now they're threatening big melees with the Tyrande there. So if they get 2 more picks before bans, this could be a very Cognitive draft.
Yeah, so, it puts them in a weird spot. You have the Tyrande already picked up, and it's just threatening. It's all that is doing is threatening that we're going to take the melee assassin, but you also need to consider the fact that we could be dealing with putting you in this support choke.
Kubi.
Yeah, see this? This is something we haven't seen in a while.
Is this the first time we finally put Fire and Ice together?
This tournament.
this tournament?
For the top 8, I think it might be.
Wow.
Don't quote me on that. I think it might be. If not, it's incredibly rare.
If I can't quote you, why would I ask?
Okay, you know what, Chester? Quote me. Fine, go ahead and quote me.
Well, the double mage power, Fire and Ice, as you guys like to call it, is incredibly powerful, but as is Johanna Tyrande, and they still have many options in terms of melee assassins that could really make this devastating. Cog, they like the Butcher.
Oh,
there he
snap.
is! Let's talk about the Butcher again. Let's talk about the meat truck driver that he is. There he is. He is one of the cutest heroes in this game. He's got the hamstring, the Butcher's brand, and Ruthless Onslaught. But really what we like to see out of him is a Ruthless Onslaught paired with Tyranda's Lunar Flare and, of course, the Hunter's Mark, because that target, it's always going to fall.
Jake, how does the Butcher drive a truck if his legs are so short?
He has a special truck.
Look at his legs compared to the length of his arms. How is he going to drive a truck?
He's got a...
Yeah, he has a special order Chen barrel that he sits on.
Exactly. See?
A strong hero nonetheless, and we've seen a lot of plays being made by Cognitive. I'm thinking back to that Abathur game. There's some really fun stuff.
Okay.
Some party bushes that were happening late game. Oh, just very good meta plays.
Kubi. All right, we've seen this before. Not only, and I said this, like not 2 minutes ago, Cognitive is probably going to get their draft because the Tyrande and the Uther ban. Look at this, Rhaegar's coming out for the ban from compLexity, which means, like, who's going to fall into this trap?
Well, it looks like Cog is going to be the one falling in the trap because Zagar is going to be banned out, and the next pick's going to the way of compLexity. So Malfurion pretty much guaranteed in one of these picks, and they'll likely want to go for someone like Muradin to make sure they have one of those priority warriors.
All right, so I was actually talking with Zoya backstage a little bit, so I'll give him a little bit of credit for opening my eyes up to this particular situation. And what it comes down to is Cognitive is making a choice between Malf and Lili. And they're saying neither of these, we're not going to get either of these burst healers based on how compLexity is able to pick the rest of their draft. They would get the choice of the other one because Uther's already out, right? So they're saying, okay, yeah, we're going to take Lili or Malf, but we can get stronger bans, and the rest of our draft can be a little bit more targeted. We're seeing what they have thus far. Nothing particularly scary in terms of isolating Lili or stunning her out. So why don't we just improve the rest of our draft and sort of accept the fact that we're not going to get a burst healer.
And if we think back to yesterday, there was actually a game played by Cognitive here on Sky Temple where they had a very similar composition involving Butcher and Lili, and it went rather well for them, making some very cool plays.
That play
on the
by
bottom
the bottom temple.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so fun. That might have been one of my favorite plays of everything yesterday. And just so far, it kind of feels like Glaurung is making a ton of plays this event. A lot of very memorable, highlighting moments.
All right, so it's going to be the Tyrande with that Lili. They are going to pair it up with Sylvanas. Remember, Sky Temple, one of the bigger battlegrounds out there. She can easily go into a lane undetected and start working away on it. But compLexity, they are taking a note out of the Tempo Storm playbook here. The double warriors will return.
We're talking a ton of stuns between the Impale, the Burrow Charge, and the Stormbolt. That's a lot of lockdown available.
And that's a lot of anti-Lili.
Yes, so they took a look at the draft up to that point, and they said, yeah, Muradin's kind of scary. We can keep Lili away from Muradin. Things are probably going to be okay. And yeah, they said, no, we're going to take a new rack. We'll get the double warrior, something that we saw a lot of a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Not going to be the case, or I mean, it doesn't seem to have been the case. We're all of a sudden seeing more of this double warrior, but now the threat is on Lili. The pressure is on, and the positioning is going to have to be top notch from iakona.
Yeah, keeping those cups up will be a challenge. But we do have game number 2 on Sky Temple underway, so let's hop on into it.
This is the clutch match for compLexity. They have to win this. Let's introduce the team. On the left side, we're going to have Cattlepillar on a new Barak. RawrJar will be playing Muradin. Blinks on the Malfurion. Hans will be playing Kilthas. And rounding it out, Jaina will be played by Trummel.
And on the red side of the map is Cognitive, currently up 1-0 with shot on Tyrande. Scylol playing as Johanna. Glaurung will be playing as the Butcher. iakona rocking the Lili, and Sylvanas rounding out the team, played by Hospital.
Yeah, so this is a clutch match. This is very important that compLexity is able to turn this around. Draft-wise, there's a lot of tools they have that can deal with the Butcher. I think if they're able to sort of stall the game out a little bit, buy some time for Kilthas, not fall too far behind. But the battleground is Sky Temple. If there's an early lead picked up for Cognitive, they might be able to. Wow.
It's getting worse.
What happened to my call to arms for the compLexity guys?
You compLexity fans, I know you're out there, so get your votes and use the hashtag HeroesWC and hashtag compLexity if you think they can make the comeback. But Cognitive, they have shown their power in game number 1. They're up 1-0, And if they do take it here, they qualify for regionals. I can't harp on that enough, Coops.
Yeah, this is a very, very important match. Blinks has grabbed the scouting drone at level 1. I think this is a great pickup considering the lineup. Glaurung has proven that he is a scary threat on this Butcher, so it makes a lot of sense to grab that. We also have the reverberation picked up from Murden. Feels like it's been a while since it's been used, but it is an attack speed slowdown, which Butcher relies a lot on getting attacks to keep himself alive.
Yeah, it's a cool response. I mean, it used to be used a lot against Illidan. Illidan was that big melee assassin, get in your face, do all the damage. But Butcher works in a very similar sense where his auto attacks can heal him while the Butcher's brand is applied, and mitigating that with attack speed, well, that's pretty cool.
On the other side, Butcher, being played by Glaurung, actually picked up block. So a lot of this comes down to the survivability. Yeah, sure. There's no huge auto attackers on this side, but any kind of damage reduction that you can get for the Butcher because the burst healing on Lili, yeah, sure, Tyrande is there too. But, you know, you need to make sure you can keep Glaurung alive. He's going to be kind of the kingpin of the team. On top of this, Tyrande has grabbed the Hunter's Mark cooldown reduction. That's going to also be very critical in terms of making sure they can secure lockdowns on, for the takedowns.
And based on this composition, I really do think Tyrande kind of has to go Overflowing Light at 13 to have the additional healing for that character.
All right, level 4 just hit. We have the Elun's Grace once more. Anything else that is jumping out at me? Not so much of a Beetle build. We don't have, we have Regen Master picked up at level 1 for Nubarak. So we'll see if the Leeching Scarabs are grabbed at 7. Level 4, we do have the every 8 seconds the Beetle spawn. So look to see a little bit more of a lane presence for Nubarak.
But the charge coming onto Jaina. The body blocks are there, and Trouble will go down, but Glaurung is in a bit of a tight spot. Burrow charge from under that wall, but he is not afraid. Butcher's Brand allowing him to heal himself up on that Nubarak.
Good presence of mind for Glaurung to actually save the Butcher's Brand, not with the trigger finger to put it down onto Jaina in that scenario. As soon as I saw him charge in and then cover the entrance into the gate, I was like, okay, Jaina's done. But the burrow under the wall, I was like, that's a really cool play. And I think maybe if the Butcher's Brand hadn't been saved, that might have been a dead Glaurung.
Yeah, very likely. So nicely done by him, really making a name for himself with that Butcher. But currently working on that top Bruiser camp. We do often see this out of Cognitive. They like to send Tyrande Butcher together to get the mercenary camps, but we will see Giants collected by Cattle.
Okay, yeah, and the timing attack is something that can be very effective for a lot of teams, especially when it comes down to the battleground control. We do see that the bruisers were picked up in the upper right side of the map, and it's possible that compLexity will save taking their own bruisers to just before when that bottom temple is going to spawn. And, we've seen Zagara's sort of setting up shop in this bottom lane with the creep tumors, making sure they have a lot of vision. And, having split push across the map is also a really good way to deal and have an effective temple.
Yeah, it looks like their timing will more or less line up here for the blue side Bruiser camp. But Giants have been collected as soon as the bottom lane is cleaned up, and Sylvanas, Butcher, and Tyrande really starting to put that pressure on down there. They're going to try to weaken it before the bottom temple does spawn him, and they even managed to pick off Jaina.
The timing is really good. She should be back up before those temples end up spawning, but just having that experience lead, there it is. The trigger for those has just arrived, but they're already starting to put a lot of pressure on this bottom fort. This guarantees that if Cognitive is able to occupy the entire bottom temple, there is a little bit of split push pressure in the top lane, but if they can back up, take some of those shots, they will find themselves well ahead on the way to level 10.
All right, for level 7 Malfurion win for Enduring Growth. So this is going to be a game on Sky Temple with no mules, and that's actually pretty uncommon at this point in time.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yep. And, Tyrande had the choice. It's just an increased range on the Lunar Flare.
Yeah.
So surprised. I think maybe they just sort of looked at the potential. Are they likely to grab Mule? Yes, no. Maybe we don't need to counteract with that and just have the increased range for the more utility in terms of picking up takedowns.
Yeah, I mean, the threat is there. Butcher can charge from pretty far away, and having the additional range is quite nice. On top of that, Johanna staying in the top, fighting against Murden, and it is 4v4 in this bottom lane. They're starting to force Cattle back, but that's the great thing about a Nubarak. He can burrow charge under lanes like this.
Yeah, even though this is scary, though. Level 10 was just hit. We do have the Blessed Shield, the Wailing Arrow. Doesn't look... Okay, so compLexity is going to be smart about this backup, understand and respect the advantage that Cognitive has with the heroic talents. Other ones that were picked up are Furnace Blast, a Jug of 1,000 Cups, and Starfall. Pretty standard picks, I would say, for those heroes.
Yeah, but this is not a standard call at all. They're looking at the boss with Hunter's Mark. It's falling incredibly rapidly, but the rotation is happening. Muradin will be late to the battle, but we do see Nubrek. He wants to contest this. He wants to sit on the point. Cups have been used. The boss is picked up, and Kettle needs to get out. He will end up falling. Blessed Shield was spent unnecessarily, but the Butcher isn't afraid to continue the aggression.
He's moving in. Trummel with the sights. It doesn't look as though they're going to continue further. I think a lot of what that came down to, especially trying to control that capture point, it was basically a Nubarak versus Butcher. And unless you can, use or bait out the Butcher's brand before the boss is taken, but if it's after the fact, there's no way you're going to out-sustain and try to push the Butcher off of that. So I think as soon as they saw, like, yeah, he's saving the Butcher's brand, we need to back off. There's no way we can take this. So this play has really put Cognitive even further forward. They're putting a lot of pressure on across the map. They say you either need to respond to the boss or you're going to lose this fort in the top lane.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, Butcher is like the tank destroyer. He's the warrior destroyer. He would love to fight big targets. So that just means you're going to heal him more and more and more with that brand. But a nice burrow charge from Cattle onto Tyrande, not going to have enough for the follow-up. We see the Hunter's Mark has been applied. Butcher in the front line, just getting the damage out, but going to fall himself.
Okay, that's the type of response they need to have, taking the Butcher out very early. You can see the confidence play from compLexity. They're moving forward. They want to lock down the nice route. They're going to be able to take out Hospital. That means no Sylvanas, no Butcher for the time being. 10, they got Scylol. The pierce through the wall. The Stormbolt is good, followed up by the Blizzard. Well done from compLexity. This is the type of play they needed to get back into this.
Yeah, bouncing back. The experience is incredibly even, 4-3 in terms of takedowns. And compLexity now has control over the map. Collecting the Watchtower, they should put some pressure on this top fort.
Okay, yes, with both of these temples appearing, this puts even more pressure onto Cognitive. They just had a little bit of a slip up, but the map control all of a sudden has shifted back compLexity's way.
2 seconds until the next temples are active, middle and bottom for this spawn. And we do see Lili collecting these giants. I think they'll probably have the presence in the bottom lane.
Yeah, so I think that, yeah, you're right. That's going to give them, it might be a situation where both teams end up splitting. There's no talent tier advantage for either side. If any team should be looking to get aggressive, it's going to be based on the heroic cooldowns. In this case, it's going to be Cognitive. They still have the Furnace Blast, the Blessed Shield, the Wailing Arrow, and the Starfall are all up. So maybe there's a good argument for Cognitive to get aggressive based on those cooldowns.
Well, actually, I like what they're doing right now. They're looking to make a fight, not only because of the cooldowns, but they have Bruisers in the top lane and they have Giants in the bottom lane. So if they're fighting, their lanes are being pushed out, and that's huge.
Okay, and they're doing just that. They're moving in. Scylol trying to put a bit of pressure on with that Condemn, but only facing the Warriors at this time. They really need to move to that back line. Glaurung actually quite a bit away, trying to stay safe for the time being.
Yeah, he's got to be careful because he is, of course, that big target. If there's any chance for compLexity to blow him up, that's exactly what they will do. But right now, just a lot of posturing, a lot of poking back and forth, and the Bruisers have eliminated the top fort.
Okay, so maybe a little bit less sustained. Cattle playing a Nubarak didn't end up going for the Leeching Scarabs, but seemed to be providing enough presence with those Scarabs. So they're actually going to back up. I'm surprised to see this, but there was enough of a stall to the point where the only heroic on cooldown at this point is just the Phoenix, which is not really a cooldown at all, Jake.
Yeah, and the stall, I mean, they did what they wanted to do. They forced the entire team of compLexity to stay at that temple while the lanes were pushed out and the fort ended up going down.
Hello, Spell Shield. Level 13 has been picked up. We have 3 Spell Shields grabbed for the Butcher, Johanna, and Sylvanas for that safety. We actually also have Surging Winds, which is an interesting one, which boosts Lili ability power. So that goes for her healing as well. It's a big one. And Overflowing Light was picked up. So all of these things together, that's a lot more burst healing than we might have expected to see for Cognitive. We do have additional defensive abilities picked up at 13 for compLexity. 2 Ice Blocks were grabbed, 2 Spell Shields, and also it's going to be the Flamethrower. There's a lot of stock put into Kael'thas for compLexity to stall this game out, and there will be quite a bit of pressure on that play if they can follow up with that with the 2 mages.
All right, well, we'll see how it all unfolds. The bottom temple expending the final shots, and all of the forts have gone down at this point in time on the half of the blue side of the map of compLexity.
All right, are we going to see any kind of crazy aggressive play? Keep your eyes on Glaurung to see if he's really what is going to start these fights. Sure, Scylol will be able to set up with some nice Condemns and Blessed Shields, but it's all about holding people in place for that Furnace Blast.
It's so scary, too, because they did have to give up Cleanse for the extra heals on Malfurion, the Enduring Growth, and there's no way to mitigate the charge. Once it happens with the Lunar Flare, that combo, you just need to make sure you can find a way to heal through it. Ice Block, something of that sort.
Yeah, there's 2 Ice Blocks, the one for Malfurion and Jaina. There's the 2 Spell Shields on both the Warriors. I think if they're going to have to pick a target, it has to be Kael'thas. 50% damage reduction for 3 seconds on a single burst on the Furnace Blast. Like, the picking and choosing of the targets for Glaurung is going to have to be very particular. So keep an eye on that. If the positioning looks a little weird, it's like, why isn't Glaurung going in? He might be, thinking a little bit further ahead. Or maybe we'll see some other, additions where they're trying to bait out the ice block, trying to get them to pop it early before Glaurung really initiates.
All right, well, they're looking to invade this mercenary camp. 1 shot left on that giant camp, and RawrJar will be successful in stealing that from Cognitive. And at this point, they know
look
that
at this, the party bush in the bottom lane. I think they're trying to bait out some of the members by just poking Cattlepillar a little bit further forward.
Yeah.
Glaurung stays smart. He says, well, we don't know where the rest of the heroes are for complexity. We're just going to play safe for the time being. Here's why. Level 16 just around the corner for Cognitive. There's no advantage for them to take a fight. They're looking for that timing window. 16 talent here. It's going to be a big one. Butcher probably could get the attack speed increase. You could go for that relentless ability that he has. There's going to be a lot of other. Johanna could go for the extra sustain with the what is it, 16? Oh, I'm forgetting. It's okay. The shield flare heal, we'll go with that. Okay, we are actually going to see that ability picked up for Butcher.
Wow. The Enrage. That makes his attack speed go up when he's, I believe it's around 15 or 25% health. Below that, he has the additional attack speed. It's going to be Herbal Cleanse for Lily, True Shot Aura on Tyrande, and a Blood for Blood picked up by Sylvanas.
We're also seeing the Fanaticism for Johanna, and the True Shot Aura plus the Butcher with the Enrage. Are you kidding me?
It's so scary.
That is going to be ridiculous, and there might be opportunities where Glaurung is actually just completely healing himself based on the amount of attack speed increase that he has.
All right, well, the dance has begun. Kael'thas does have 16 as well. The entire team, both teams have 16, so Ignite is going to be a big key element in this, and that's going to provide a situation in which Butcher is going to be very much looking to take out those mages.
He's going in. Look how much health RawrJar is dropping. Can he really overextend at this point? He had to move forward to try to get Lily, and they are going to be able to take out Murden. And the Furnace Blast goes off. We see the Ice Block onto Malfurion. Is he able to stay out?
The Ignite takes out 2 heroes. Those double mages are cleaning up the fight. Sylvanas will get away with the Haunting Wave. But a beautiful Moonfire locking him out. It's going to be Hospital going down 4 for 1 in favor of complexity. They have turned this game around.
A really, really strong play. We saw a good fight from them in the top lane. They have just taken a 4 for 1 advantage. They're looking to immediately grab the boss. They have the choice to back up and take the rest of the temples. They can get an aggressive play, look to try to take some of the keeps, but they have a lot of options, and they need to make sure that they're capitalizing on this. Now that we're past 16, we talked about this, they need to just stall out as long as possible, and this is their time to strike.
So let's talk about that fight a little bit. They utilized Tyranda's Hunter Mark on Murden, who looked really overextended, and he was, because he fell. But at the same time, you have both mages just unloading all of their damage onto 3 members. That is so scary. Do you think they can afford to do that, or they have to just put more emphasis on removing Kael'thas quickly?
Yeah, Kael'thas has to be the target, especially because of those ice blocks, and another member is going to fall. Iakona a little bit overextended, trying to get as much value out of the top temple before complexity rotated.
Well, losing Lily here puts them in a tight spot. They now cannot contest that top temple whatsoever, and they just have to sit back, defend this boss, and try to get some presence back on the map.
Sure, Butcher is very well known for clearing bosses, but also defending against bosses, so not the hugest amount of pressure. It's really got a lot to do with those temples and how much they're able to siege, and the more temples that are going to be popping up. It puts a lot of pressure on Cognitive, who all of a sudden seems to be stumbling a little bit in this late game.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it. We see the Bruisers here have been taken on the offensive side. They're going to rotate down and grab both siege camps at this rate. And really, complexity, they've got more than just about a full level lead, and this is pushing towards level 20.
So there's a couple of options for complexity moving forward. They can get aggressive and try to steal the offensive camps, but we see the Sentinel thrown out. That's going to give a bit of vision, so it might be more of a risk than they should take, or they can set up a party push for it. There's so many options, and it feels like complexity has that grasp of the situation.
Well, Lily is up. The giant camp will be collected here for complexity. But one overstep on either side could be lights out. We're at the 15-minute mark, which isn't that late into the game, but this is when you can absolutely just let it all slip away.
Yeah, I mean, based on how this drafting is going, I'm sure Complexity was watching Cognitive's game against Goon Squad, and there were a couple times where they had insanely strong early games, but I mean, that one match on Blackheart's Bay, Goon Squad really showing that they were finding holes in Cognitive's late game, and based on how they draft, this might be a really good play.
Notice Glaurung, he's hunting for Kael'thas. He's hunting for the mages in the
So
back line.
smart.
They don't know where he is. They should be aware of this. Where is that Butcher? And he's looking for the flank, but the beautiful scouting drone providing that big ring of vision. There's no way for him to enter there without being unnoticed.
Yeah, that's not something you can really wait for the timing for that to expire. He's going to have to find another way in, and the positioning is very interesting, but we can't doubt these types of flanks. They're a really big deal. Okay, we do see the Ruthless Onslaught and the Furnace Blast. They are able to, with the silence, able to ensure that the ice blocks don't go down.
Yes, and they take out Kofalt immediately, but Butcher will fall. Jaina is down as well. The two primary damage dealers for complexity are down. This will really allow Cognitive to turn this fight around, and the Lunar Flare connecting on two heroes.
The Water Elemental being microed after death for Jaina is providing so much control. That is a newest change that was added into the last patch, so it had a huge impact there.
I love the flanks. Those are the kind of plays you have to make. In the Furnace Blast, you can't stop the damage because there's no bolt yet. But 20 has just been reached, and that's going to give Kofalt a much more safe option. He can bolt out of the storm in those scenarios moving forward.
A bolt each for Jaina and Kofalt. The Hardened Shield on a new Barak. Rewind for Murden. Malfurion, I'm going to have to guess this will be a Storm Shield. We'll let you know when Blinks does end up picking that. Yeah, it is going to be the Storm Shield.
All right, offensive Bruiser Camp collecting here for Cognitive, and they're just around the corner for those level 20 Storm talents.
As soon as this pings, are they going to rush? Okay, no, they're hearthing back. I thought they were setting up for a crazy core dive, which would have been a very risky play.
Yeah, that would be a little bit too risky. But yeah, Butcher did end up hearthing back. He wants to push out that bottom lane, it looks like, for the time being. But they're holding the top temple, and the top keep should end up going down.
Okay, level 20 hit for Cognitive. Now they have afforded themselves the opportunity, the window to fight. There's two bolts for Butcher and Sylvanas, each the Indestructible on Johanna, Kung Fu Hustle on Lily, and the Rewind for Toronto. So maybe we'll see some of those double Lunar Flares that have been very impactful in the past.
Yeah, I love those plays. All right, but this game is so incredibly even. Level 20 to 20, one keep down on either side of the map. It all comes down to just these final postures. The temples will be crucial because at this point, if you hold a temple, you're going to eliminate a keep. But losing a team fight, that could be it.
Okay, just a few moments, about a half minute until this boss is off cooldown. We can see both teams are posturing around the area. They know this is going to be the critical play. With two keeps each, oh man, this is such a close game. The takedowns are also very close on either side. And, you know, we're late enough into the game. It's going to be two temples spawning next, but after that, it's three. Sort of the game's way of saying this game needs to hurry up and finish, and it's going to come down to this next fight, I feel.
Yeah, we do see everyone's playing very safely. There's so much on the line. This is the tournament life of complexity. Cognitive, they want to advance to the regionals, but Burrow Charge going out onto Glaurung. He has to bolt out of the way. That's a long cooldown that he just spent.
Yeah, that's 40 seconds before they can have a very confident engagement.
Bottom lane does in fact have Mercenary Camp. Sylvanas Butcher going to be responding to it, trying to collect these giants once more, but Anubarak and Murden, they're so tanky, they're not afraid to be in your face.
Yeah, the immediate response. I like the map presence that Complexity is showing. They know exactly what it is that Cognitive is trying to not even get too aggressive to take the boss, but even the Mercenary Camp of the Giants on this side. Two temples have just spawned mid and top. This is going to be a large contention point for both teams as the structure count is so even.
Right, I mean, you hold a full temple here, a keep is going to end up falling. Bruisers to try to provide a bit of additional map presence. Johanna's still in the bottom lane. This is something they're aware of, but they has to be responded to due to the catapults that are already existing down here.
Yeah, Complexity does have vision of Johanna clearing in the bottom lane. She's not going to be able to rotate up very quickly to get to one of those temples, so I think the first, at least half of the duration of this mid-temple should go the way of Complexity.
Yeah, it looks like they're just leaving Cattle sitting on top of that while the rest of the team is looking, they're worried about the boss. So, but they do have those single scouting drone just to the left of the boss to provide vision in case Cognitive does decide to try to start
it. The vision play that is going on right now between the teams is really cool to watch. They throw Lily up top just to basically show Complexity there's some presence up here. We're not, you know, trying to take the boss right now. Yeah, okay, and that's going to get stunned out immediately. Yep. Not the best call to make to, I guess, throw it out the cups because, you know, it's a fairly lengthy. Well, it's probably about even with the death timer in this case. So I suppose it's fine, just as a saving grace. But
this is really bad for Cognitive. Yeah. They lost Lily. They tried to start the boss, but the scouting drone was there, revealed their positioning. Immediately had to back out of there as they realized they were being seen, and now we have Complexity controlling both temples.
Yeah, iakona being taken out is having a large impact.
Ooh.
Yes, okay, is able to stall out. Just a little bit left.
Oh, but the burrow charge is there, whiffing just a little bit. The furnace blast hitting 3 targets, taking all 3 of them out. Somehow, someway, Cognitive Glaurung is still standing, and it looks like Anubarak's going to fall as well. I thought they were down and out, but they're turning this game around.
Okay, there's the mercenary camp pushing in the top lane. Which way are they going to choose to go in to try to take out this core? They have the 3-hero advantage for the time being for at least another 45 seconds. This might be the moment of opportunity to go in. I'm not sure if this is a bit passive. Okay, they're using Sylvanas' Straight to bypass the keep, so the heroes aren't slowed. They're going in. They're moving it. I think it's just Murden to go back. They're not going to be able to stop this. It looks as though the core is going to be able to be taken out. Cognitive with a turnaround at the end. They will find themselves with the 2-0 victory.
You have to talk about that big furnace blast on the boss by Glaurung. It just did so much damage. There was no way for a response. Cognitive will qualify for the North America Regionals and advance here into the lower bracket finals.
This is a huge deal for Cognitive. This is very much a breakout performance for them, taking out the number 3 team from the June Open. They've been playing so strong as of late, and I think that these series are no exception.
I just can't believe that play. Jester, what did you think about it?
Butcher, Glaurung, Butcher.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic pickup. Not only does Cognitive, sign Glaurung just before, I think, or just after the June qualifiers, but you give him any melee assassin. We saw Zerato game 1. Now you see Butcher, who has time and again kind of done these big repeat performances. Cognitive is really showing us why melees are just almost always banned, especially against Cognitive as well. And Jake, you said a little bit about this earlier. Those furnace blasts. Let's take a look at one of those earlier furnace blasts, because this bridge down into this bottom lane, man, this bridge of death is just absolutely insane. Because now into this game, look at this, the flank. You talked so much about, he's just posturing over here. He's just like, oh, no, there's a scouting drone. Okay, here's my chance. He comes in. He is targeting right there on top of Hans. That is a big charge. There's going to be a furnace blast as well. And guess what? It's a 2-for-1. Both mages are sitting right there. And this is going to be also a big cone of the condemn right here as well. So not only does everybody kind of condense down into a single point, but we have the giant furnace blast coming in there as well, and it just absolutely does work. If we go forward now with it here, you will see that it's just bam, big damage, out goes the Kael'thas, and now the rest of the team collapsing. The Johanna with the positioning is great. Sure, Glaurung goes down, but they gut out that DPS core of compLexity, and not only that, but you saw the last one there as well on the boss. The furnace blasts are on point, and it's just a huge props right there to Glaurung.
Yeah, the other thing too, credits to Hospital for landing that 4-man silence. That was also a big clutch thing, making sure that those ice blocks couldn't proc to allow that furnace blast to really have a huge impact. So really just a lot of good synergies from the team there.
Well, once more, guys, that is going to be Cognitive advancing 2-0, which qualifies them for top 3 here in this event and the North America Regionals happening this September.
Cognitive in, man. Like, I mean, Gilly was just asking me, he's like, who would you actually want to see, win this? compLexity is a great team. Number 3 seed. Cognitive, they've been out there in a lot of these tournaments, and that pickup on Glaurung has changed almost everything for them.
He has. iakona Glaurung doing quite well. We can see there's the 2-0 victory. And I think we do have a remote interview set up with one of the players on Cognitive.
Yeah, I think it is going to be shot, so we'll see if we can get that set up. Might be just a little bit of a delay, so let's talk about those matches just a little bit more.
All right, so everything about Butcher really starting to shake up this meta. We talked about Furnace Blast impact, but at the same time, that was a double warrior composition. In a lot of ways, Butcher is the warrior slayer. You go toe-to-toe with any warrior in the game, he's going to come out on top just because of the Butcher's brand and the power on that ability. And even though Cups was interrupted a few times or not even there for him, he manages to stand up in the battles.
Well, he's a very self-sustaining kind of assassin. And, 1v1, you don't want to find him in a dark alley. I think that's actually kind of like what happened in the Spotlight. Kevin Johnson just saying, this is not a 1v1 kind of hero that you want to run into. And he has survived quite a bit of that double mage onslaught. In a lot of those team fights, he was just kind of sitting there just, hacking away with that Butcher's brand. The life return is so much. So, they didn't get a Malfurion, they didn't get a Uther, but the Lily was enough to sustain the rest of the team. They didn't really have to focus too much on him.
Yeah, well, it worked out well for them. And speaking of Cognitive, let's switch over to that interview that we have, and I believe we're talking with Shot. Yeah, what's up, my friend?
What's up, Jake? How you doing, man?
Well, congrats. I guess you're doing pretty well. I'm doing great because we just got to saw some phenomenal games out of you guys. What were your thoughts going into this match versus compLexity?
The thoughts going into the game, we just had to stay calm, not let the 2-0 defeat from the winner's bracket shake us. We just had to play our game, play our methodical style on all the maps, and we would come out on top in a standard game.
So we have teams like TempoStorm that don't play a whole lot of melee assassins right now. Like, yes, we will see Zuna, but it seems at least half the time they're running all ranged assassin. You guys are very different. We're constantly seeing prioritization on Butcher, Zeratul, Kerrigan. What are your thoughts behind this in the current Battleground pool?
My thoughts on the melee style of play, we obviously like it a lot because Glaurung is a great melee player. He basically will make plays. He will basically lead the charge and it'll work out. Our aggressive style is really what we steamroll a game in our direction, and it's typically very hard for a team to come back. And if we fall behind, we still have that playmaking ability.
So you think it's really, you still like the melee assassins a lot, even on like a map of Battlefield Eternity?
Definitely. Battlefield, if you can get like a couple picks on Battlefield, you can easily take an Immortal 3v5 or 4v5. It's just about the numbers advantage, really.
Well, moving forward, you will be facing Cloud9 Maelstrom. What are you guys going to pull out to take down these Titans?
Secrets, Jake. Come on.
Caster 101, Jake.
Hey, I want to know these
secrets. A magician
secrets.
never reveals his secrets.
All right, fair enough, my friend. Well, I just have to give you a massive congratulations on qualifying for the North America Regionals happening later this summer. That's a big deal, and you guys have earned it. This is your first time in the top 8 and qualifying for top 3.
Thank you so much. It was awesome. We are having a lot of fun, and we hope to make a really good showing against Maelstrom. They're good buddies of ours, and it's going to be a good set.
All right, well, we're looking forward to the games. Best of luck. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, you too, Jake.
Big match coming up. Please tell me your secrets. What are you going to do?
Hey, man, if he slips up, I know all the secrets.
Yeah, so does everyone else, buddy. Well, you can see actually, they're very emotional about this. They realize how important that victory was.
Right.
The fact, as soon as you mentioned America's Championship, he was like, oh, yeah, that is a big deal for these teams. And they're really invested in this game in the long haul. It's so cool to see that, the synergy that they have as a team. Just really awesome all around.
Well, why don't we take a closer look at the bracket as we are winding down towards the end of it here. Jester, tell us what we have coming up next.
All right, so compLexity and Cognitive. That was the match that we just saw, and as you can see, it is going to be the big Cognitive win. Congratulations to them because they are now qualified, but their journey is not done yet because they got to go up against Cloud9 Maelstrom, the number 2 seed, veritably the number 2 team here in North America. And even if let's say they win against that, they have to go up against the Kings of the Storm, TempoStorm, in a weighted best of 3 sets into that last place. And, that's where all the big money is. $8,500 for first place, $4,000 for second. But they're not done yet. They have to go through Maelstrom first, and that is what we're going to be seeing next.
So they're essentially playing for, if they win this match, they're guaranteed the $4,000. Then they have a chance at the $8,500. It's a lot of money on the line.
Oh yeah, all of those teams really want their large part of that prize pool. So, as Jester was sort of alluding to in the bracket, the upcoming schedule for these matches is going to be that lower bracket finals of... actually, no, excuse me, we're going to be hopping into the TempoStorm versus Cloud9. Nope, we already had
TempoStorm,
that.
we're kind of waiting already.
Okay, all right, so we're going to have, yes, that lower bracket finals between Cognitive and Cloud9 Maelstrom, and then following that, the team is going to be going up against TempoStorm, perhaps for a rematch, but also, as Jester was mentioning, you do have to win that second set against TempoStorm, awaiting in the upper bracket.
Well, on that note, we're going to get ready to roll for Cognitive versus Cloud9 Maelstrom. We're just going to take a very quick commercial break to set that up for you, so stay with us.